Whoa, hey nerds, and welcome to another episode of Game Theory. In today's Game Theory, we're going to talk about how Marth is actually Ness, and thereby also Sans from Undertale. That's all of the joke that I got. I really can't string that along for too long because just thinking about it makes me kind of sad. But no. Anyways, welcome guys. I just figured I would talk about something that I found interesting. Whenever there's a new character, be it from whatever Fire Emblem or wherever you want to look, you know, their base games, what they did in their games, it's always interesting to look at their transition from that game to Heroes and how I feel a few characters kind of got misinterpreted, or maybe they just wanted to kind of pick and choose certain things from that character to create something interesting in this game. Be it bad or good, I'm not sure, but I mean, we're going to start off with some pretty simple things, mostly one character in particular who didn't really just, you know, I don't know why they did this, but she kind of ended up in a weird spot. So we're going to start off with a character who didn't really get misinterpreted, but more just got misclassed and didn't really, unfortunately, actually, now that I look at it, I don't actually have her as a character. I mean, not like it's a big loss anyways, but here's Faye. So, Faye's from Shadows of Valentia, not actually from Gaiden, which is, you know, the game that the remake was made on. She's actually an original character from the remake, and she's the only female villager you actually get. So, for those who don't know, in Shadows of Valentia, villagers, basically, they are this it's kind of, 1 second, oh man, talking. These are the characters that start off as this base class villager, but if you get them up in the levels, they can then evolve, and you basically pick what unit they're going to evolve into, you know, be it an archer, or warrior, or I forget what the actual task of it was, mage, you know, and Faye was kind of in an interesting place, since she's the only female villager, and the first one that was actually, you know, the original character from Valentia, they didn't actually have a female villager back then. She was always kind of odd. But here's one thing that you probably didn't know as a character. Faye does not have access as a villager. Even in promotion, she does not have access to the archer class. She is in fact an anomaly in this game. I'm not really sure why they picked her not only as a character, but also as an archer class unit. In fact, if anything, she becomes one of the better clerics in the game, so I'm honestly baffled beyond belief as to why they didn't just make her a staff unit. My guess is perhaps maybe they, you know, just decided to skip out on that and thought, hey, we already have enough staff users. Why don't we just, you know, go with an archer unit, even though it's technically impossible to create Faye in her own game as an archer unit. Now, one thing she does gain access to, since she is an actual female class, is, well, you know, this, well, I don't mean to sound rude here or sexist, I'm sorry, but as a female unit, she does gain access to the Pegasus Knight, or at least some variation of it. But the one thing that I've noticed is that during the update that actually added Faye, we also got Claire here. I'm not really certain why we had to have, you know, Faye. She's a villager, I understand, and maybe they wanted to kind of, you know, show that off, but considering the other ones that came with Elm were Claire, who is actually, you know, an original character portion of the story, and a Pegasus Knight, and Lucius, who is, again, not a villager, an actual class. He's a knight, and, well, he uses a spear. So it's really awkward to see this, because it's just such a strange occurrence. We actually have other archers in the game that could have easily been used over Faye, but for some reason we got a kind of mediocre archer unit, which I'm guessing maybe she may not have been that great if she could have gotten archer class. It's just one of the weirder things that kind of comes along with Heroes, and where sometimes they just, you know what, just put on their sunglasses and go, you know what, fuck it, let's just, here you go, here's an archer class. And I mean, that's pretty much all I gotta think about when it comes to Faye. I mean, it's an odd choice. She probably could have just been a staff user, and a damn good one at that, but oh well, guess we'll just move on from that. Now, this is actually the reason why I wanted to do this video, is because I made a joke a while ago. In fact, I made a series of jokes about this character, and someone actually got mad at me and said, "Why do you keep making fun of her?" Well, I guess I'll just tell you why I keep making fun of her. So we're going to be talking about Lachesis, whatever you want to call her. As a character, she's actually pretty interesting. But the problem is that they kind of shoehorned her into one thing and one thing only. This is something that they seem to be doing with characters who may not fit the mold entirely, or end up maybe just, you know, having a certain thing early on in their game, and then even though they evolve past that, they just still go with that. And that would be, unfortunately, what happened to Lachesis here, who, in her game, admittedly, she's actually quite useless at the start. The only real redeeming factor that she has is that she has access to a staff. She starts off in the princess role, and she has access to a sword, and, well, a staff. And you may notice that even in her art, in fact, in a lot of art that you may see of Lachesis, is that she actually has a sword, and they constantly show her as a sword user. And there's a reason for that, but mostly, even in the official art here, for Heroes, you may notice that there's a sword around her hip. She has one, she has it, it's right there, it's glaring, it's obvious. But, even though she has that, she's actually, when she starts off in her game, she's generally very useless. The only thing she has going for her are the facts that she can have a staff, and she can use some spells. That's about it. And that's how you level her up. But once you get her promoted, she can turn into a knight, a master knight, if I recall at least the translated name. And that might be a reason why you may see a lot of art. Well, that's Faye. I mean, here's an example of some of the art that you may see of Lachesis a lot, honestly. Especially when it comes to Cypher cards. Granted, Cypher has a lot of variants, but you may see a lot of... Oh my god! No! No, don't do that! God damn it. Damn it, Anthony. Anyways, I need to turn off those notifications. But as you can see, they show her off a lot with the sword. That's mostly because when she actually promotes to an actual, you know, unit outside of Princess, she gains massive stat gains, at least, quite a lot, and she can become an extremely powerful unit, which is cool and very nice, but unfortunately it seems when it came down to creating her as a unit in Heroes, she ended up getting pigeonholed into that whole staff-wielding unit. And that's kind of a bummer because, as you can see right here on the left and right side, she actually looks pretty damn cool as a swords unit, and she probably would have made a better swords unit. But unfortunately, along with her and her half-brother, who was added at the same time, who was also a swords unit, she ended up where she is now. Eventually, I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, we'll get another version of her where she actually has her sword and she's more of a actual knight. Because, well, she's not exactly the best healer. I'll just throwing it out there to send me your hate. I live off of it. I love it. I will eat it all up. Much like the Oreos that I ate just a bit ago. I'm kidding, I didn't actually have Oreos. That was a lie. Alright, well, that's Lachesis, and there's also one other unit that I wanted to talk about because, well, he's also, unfortunately, a staff user, and kind of also a girl. And since we're going to be going into a healer, a staff user gauntlet, I guess it would be kind of fitting to talk about Lucius, or Lucius, Lucius, I think it's Lucius. Boy, there's a lot to talk about him, because, well, when I first saw him, they released trailers back, I forget how long ago that was. I think it was actually in the same update that may have added Lachesis. I could be wrong. But I looked him up, I read about him, and I was like, wow, this might actually be our first staff user who could be an actual damage dealer, because Lucius in his game, he started off as a monk, and he, for those who don't know, monks were, well, kind of, I wouldn't say useless, but they were characters who used light magic, and light magic was something that kind of weaved in and out of Fire Emblem games. We didn't really see much of it in Awakening. In fact, I don't think there was any light magic. They changed a lot of the signature light magics to other variances and, well, kind of did away with it. In fact, I'm pretty sure Nosferatu used to be a light spell. It's kind of hobbled between light and dark, and eventually in Awakening it ended up in dark. But unfortunately for him, Monk was kind of his spiel, and they were basically light magic users who could attack. And, well, he was kind of that glass cannon in that variation. Unfortunately, I don't really have any art of him outside of Heroes, but he was meant to be a very strong damagey unit. Granted, he upgrades into Bishop, which could eventually heal, or at least use Staff, and he could also use Staffs to damage, which was, you know, good enough. But it seems that if any unit should have gotten Wrathful Staff, I think it would have been him. Not only that, but he was a glass cannon in his game, and for some reason he has a bit of abnormal defense. At least from what I can remember later on, he actually gets quite a bit of defense for him. Oh, wait, no, maybe, no, it was resistance, actually. You know what, it was resistance. That makes him a lot stronger. That actually fits more of his MO, actually, now that I think about it, because in his game, originally, I'm thinking something else entirely, I do apologize, but with resistance, he actually had a ton of that in his original game, so he was actually a very solid magic tank. And that is probably the only thing that fits him here, because outside of that, well, he doesn't have much of the whole glass cannon appeal to him, which, yeah, kind of sucks. That's just unfortunate for some of these characters that ended up in this. You know, right now, Heroes lacks a lot of the actual intricacies, trying to talk right now, intricacies of some of the, you know, not only the earlier versions of Fire Emblem, but also some of the later versions. We're lacking classes in some spheres. A lot of the spells that you see in the game right now, we don't even have Nosferatu, at least from what I can remember. And, you know, things like Aura, you know, you might think, well, why not make him a tome user? And honestly, I feel Lucius would have probably been better as an actual tome user because, well, it's not really doing him any justice as an actual staff user when he can't really use his attack stat to do anything without having to sacrifice a poor, poor innocent Jenny. May she rest in peace. I mean, it's strange to look at all of these characters and think, hey, what the hell happened to them? Well, some of them kind of ended up in these situations that just go against what they once were, and it's such a shame because I honestly, I would have liked to see Lachesis as an actual sword unit. I would like to see Lucius as what he was, and I didn't want to see Faye at all. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say that. You could have gone with another archer. Preferably one not as clingy to Alm. Like, don't worry about it. Anyways, when it comes to these units, eventually I still have hopes that we'll see them in different styles, different formats. That's the beauty of a gacha game, at least. I think we've already gotten some characters in different forms, and we're going to be getting more characters in different forms. Can you please stop messaging me? Oh my god! I don't know why it keeps doing that. Kill me! Anyways, that's basically all I have to talk about here when it comes down to little intricate things. I need to stop using the word intricate. I can't say it. Guys, I haven't slept yet. Please help me. I was trying to level up, not level up. I was trying PvP in Final Fantasy XIV, and I lost my mind, and I don't know where I am anymore. Help! But I find that a lot of these characters usually transition pretty decently into this game, but we're going to need to see more as we go along, because unfortunately a lot of these characters that have the weirder kind of aspects to them kind of get stripped away as they come into this game, because we're still in those predefined slots. Eventually we're going to have to see a little bit of evolution to get the other characters in there, you know, those that use beast orbs, those that were able to transform into animals, and some of the more intricate characters like, god damn it, there goes that word again. One of the more interesting characters like, you know, Lucius with his monk. Maybe some changes there would be nice, is all I'm saying. But even now, as we stand here, we still have to look at them all, and I still have to be mad about it. But no, That's just all I have to talk about, guys. 15 minutes of utter nonsense. I'm going to bed! Hooray, I've earned it! Yay! Good night.